Hi guys, it's Katie. I'm going to do some food prep. The first thing is I have some tea here. I brewed this sweet tea and I'm going to use it to make kombucha. I have a whole kombucha video I finally got finished, which I'll link down below if you want to see step by step how to make kombucha. But the Cliff Notes version is just brewing a batch of sweet tea, and then you're going to want to put an inoculation into that sweet tea so that it can ferment. So the inoculation consists of a SCOBY and some kombucha from a previous batch. I'm just stirring it up here. And then just top it off with water. Cover it with a secure but breathable cover, and then let it sit on your counter for however long it takes. 5, 7, 10, 14 days, however long. I'm going to do the same thing with the black tea. Add the SCOBY, add about a cup of finished kombucha, top off with water, cover it and set aside to ferment. So the tea that I made last week, I'm going to flavor and bottle it up. So I'm going to use some clementine or mandarin orange. Go ahead and weigh how much juice I use just so that I can know that for next time if it turns out to be really good flavor. I've never tried this flavor, but why not? Alright, so that's about 75 grams of juice. That was 2 pretty large mandarin oranges. I'm also going to put some sugar. Usually I put 20 grams. I'm going to go ahead and just put 10. I have a feeling that that orange juice has so much sugar in it that it will be plenty of extra sugar for the carbonation. And I just need to give that a quick stir and then put it into the bottles and put those bottles on the counter for another 3 to 5 days to carbonate. So for the black tea, I will also sweeten it with some sugar. This time I'll probably use a full 20 grams. Also going to put a whole bunch of grated ginger. It was probably about 3/4 of an inch, but this is a really wide section, so I'd say maybe like an inch, inch and a half amount of ginger that I have grated with my microplane, and I'm going to put that in here. Okay, so that was about 17 grams of grated ginger. And now I'll just decant these bottles as well. Next, I'm going to work on some rice. I'm going to make some rice so that it can cool down in the refrigerator so that I can use it to make fried rice. So for that, I'm going to use this medium grain white rice, and I'm just going to cook it according to the package directions. I'm also going to soak some brown rice. And this is going to take a few days. I'm going to soak it and sprout it. So I'm just going to use a cup of rice. Try not to throw it all over the floor, so I'll use a funnel. So I add a cup of rice, and then I'm going to cover it with water, let it soak for 24 hours, and then let it sprout for another 2 to 3 days. And I will keep this covered while it soaks and sprouts, and just leave it on my counter. Also want to sprout some soybeans. I can share this cover. The last thing I want to soak this week is some hominy, which is corn like this. And I ran out of mason jars, so I'll use this container. Okay, so everything here is covered with several inches of water, and it's just going to soak. Okay, so next up I'm going to make a sausage seasoning mix. I have a recipe that calls for sausage that you're taking out of the casing anyway. So instead of buying sausage, I'm going to use ground pork that I already have, and then I'm just going to mix in the spices to make it taste like sausage. So I will do that closer to the day that I'm going to use that, because that meat is still frozen. But I'm going to make up all of the seasonings, and that way I can just mix it through while I'm browning the meat. So this recipe is on All Recipes. It calls for 3 pounds of meat. I'm just going to do 1, so I'm going to do a little bit of mental math and try to divide this, but I will link the recipe down below. Start with some salt and some pepper, some garlic powder, some onion powder, paprika, smoked paprika since I didn't have quite enough regular paprika. Calls for ground fennel. So I just took fennel seeds and crushed them up in my mortar and pestle. Maybe a little more. I like fennel. I'm going to omit the brown sugar and some of these other ingredients I don't have, but that seems pretty good to me. So I'm just going to cover this up, and like I said, I'll store this, and then when I go to brown the sausage, I'll just mix this through before I brown the sausage. Okay, so I just realized that my camera wasn't filming this whole time, and I just mixed up this honey mustard salad dressing. It came together super duper fast. Usually when I make homemade salad dressing, I just make like oil and vinegar salad dressings, but this might be a new go-to because it came together super fast. I had looked at a bunch of recipes. They're all kind of similar, so I kind of just made this one up. So I'll tell you what I put in here, and it mixed up in this measuring cup really easily. I put a 1/4 cup of Dijon mustard and a 1/4 cup of yellow mustard. A lot of recipes call for one or the other. I decided to do a little bit of both. So that's a 1/2 cup of mustard altogether, and then I used a little bit shy of 1/2 cup of honey. I just wanted to make sure that if it was too, I didn't want it to get too sweet, I can always add more, and it's perfect the way it is, so just shy of 1/2 cup. So about a 50-50 ratio, and then I just put a little glug, probably about 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and 2 tablespoons of, I use grapeseed oil, just like a neutral oil, just to kind of thin it out a little bit. And I think it is the perfect consistency. It tastes really good. I didn't add anything. I guess you could probably add salt and pepper or garlic to it, and I didn't even need to put it in the blender or anything. I just stirred it with a spoon, not even a whisk. And now I'm going to put this in a mason jar. Probably could have mixed it up right in the mason jar, but I wanted to measure out how much of each ingredient, so. Okay, and this I'll just put in the fridge, and we're gonna have grilled chicken on top of salad, so this will be really good for that meal. Okay, next I have some bananas to deal with. These aren't super overripe, but I did just buy some more because they were on sale, so I want to do something with these, and I don't want to freeze them. I actually have probably 10 bananas in my freezer. So I'm also going to be making banana bread, but with these fresh ones, I'm going to make dried bananas. So these are going to be dehydrated bananas. They're not going to be like banana chips. I did a whole video. It's an old video, so it's a little bit not the best quality, but it shows how to do these. But basically, I have these fruit leather trays that I got with my dehydrator, and I'm just going to put a tiny little drop of oil just to keep them from sticking too much. You could also just spray with whatever, cooking spray that you normally have if you use that. So I'm just going to grease up both of these fruit leather trays, and then I'm going to put the bananas on the trays. Alright, so I have the bananas laid out. You have to give them some room, and then what you do is you kind of smash them. You want to get sort of a even thickness, and you want them to be pretty thin. Basically, I smash them as thin as I can without them turning into like complete mush. So something like this. And something I've never done, but I'm going to go ahead and try it, is I'm going to sprinkle just one, because like I said, I've never tried it before, but I'm going to sprinkle some cinnamon on one. See how that turns out. Okay, so now I just need to load these into my dehydrator, and I dehydrate them at 135 degrees. says right here on my dehydrator for fruits and veggies, so I do that. It takes about 10, 12, 14 hours, somewhere around there, depending on how thin you press them out. So here's what the bananas look like when they're all done. These I'll just keep in the pantry as a snack. I also made some kiwi fruit. I just had a random kiwi, so I figured I would try it. They turned out pretty good as well. Alright, so I got my rice here finished. It's been just hanging out on the stovetop steaming so that it's nice and tender. And I'm going to just spread it out on a dish like this, so that it can cool off and then sort of dry out a little bit. So I'm not going to use all of the rice that I cooked for that fried rice, but I'm going to put this like this uncovered in the refrigerator until it cools down. It's been sitting for a while, so it'll probably only take half an hour or so to cool. So that will cool it and dry it out just a little bit so that when I make my fried rice it won't get too gummy. And then once it cools for about a half an hour, I'll pack it up and put it in like a plastic container or something so that it doesn't completely dry out. Okay, so with the other extra bazillion bananas I have in my freezer, I'm gonna make banana bread, and I'm gonna try to make it in the slow cooker. So I did another baking bread, like yeast bread, in the slow cooker video, which I can link down below. Now I'm gonna try a quick bread. So I thought banana bread would be good since I have all these bananas.
Whoa, 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 whoa. I like that.
Alright, here's an in-progress shot. This is the banana bread at about 2.5 hours on low. Looks like it's setting nicely around the edge. The inside is still very wet looking, but I'm just going to let it keep going for a couple more hours probably. Okay, so here's the banana bread. It was in for 5 hours on low. I'm pretty sure that it's done. I read something on a crock pot banana bread recipe that said to put a piece of paper towel between the lid and whatever you're baking. That way it can absorb the condensation. There's a little bit of condensation, nothing like with the yeast bread, so maybe that would help with the yeast bread as well. No, that's just a tip. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. I'm going to let it cool, take it out of the pan, and then slice it up and see what it looks like. Alright, here's the banana bread. It is very moist and falling apart, but tastes good. This is not a vegan recipe, but I didn't have an egg, so I didn't put an egg. So it's vegan banana bread, so maybe that's why it's extra moist, but I'm going to eat it up. It looks good to me. Alright, that's everything for this week's food prep. Hope you found something useful. Thanks for watching. Bye!